when we did the signing yesterday, I asked a lot of the kids in line if they read comics, if they'd read anything, and some of them had read like Batman and Superman and read that stuff consistently, and a lot of them, the only comics they'd read was manga, and we talked about, you know, they were really into Umbrella Academy, it's the greatest story they ever read, and they want to, they were saying that they'd be interested in picking up other stuff that was like an influence on you. Some of them knew what that was, like some of them knew about Doom Patrol.
Right.
But what were like the biggest books that influenced you?
I think honestly the first book, because I was kind of too young almost to know what was really cool, you know, even though I had discovered Watchmen.
Right.
I think maybe
you discovered Watchmen later, right? Like not when it was coming out?
Yeah, not when it was coming out. I was probably too young to discover.
It came out in '86.
Yeah, so I was probably still in elementary school when I probably wouldn't have understood it. I was reading X-Men at that time, but when I was in high school, that's when somebody had turned me on to, this makes sense, that somebody had turned me on to the Watchmen. But before Watchmen, actually, I read Akira, and
really?
So it was actually kind of a manga, but I never considered Akira manga.
Well, it was coming out from Marvel probably at the time.
Epic was putting it out,
yeah.
And, you know, it really impacted me. Katsuhiro Otomo, the way he told the stories, and just, you know, the fact that he killed one of the main characters in issue 6. I remember going like, wow, you know.
Don't give that away, though.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
One of the people that we were talking about, this young Japanese girl that we were talking to at Forbidden Planet yesterday, she was talking about manga a lot, and I asked her if she could kind of see that influence. And I think there's like a superficial, like a visual influence from manga on Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, in some weird way. Well, there's certain specific people I like. Like, I love Otomo. I think he's probably one of the biggest influences to me. Otomo would do these nurseries that were insane looking with giant elephants and rainbows and stars painted on the wall. And that's kind of how I see the world in comics.
Yeah, Otomo would have like a kind of surrealistic touches in a story that was meant to be sort of straight science fiction.
Right. And there'd be a lot of gritty, serious apartment building type motorcycle chasing and dirty cities, and then you'd get these really surreal moments of like nurseries for psychic children, and you know, and it was pretty amazing. He actually, in a weird way, kind of turned me on to Mobius in European comics.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Totally.
And so it made the leap from that to that. Before even getting into Watchmen, I was into like Japanese and European comics. So I'd say that connection between Otomo and Mobius, if anything, and European comics is kind of the connection in Umbrella Academy. And then Doom Patrol, getting that was like, it was like almost like this is the other part of comics now. Like this is now, like if you've gotten through Watchmen and Dark Knight,
right?
You know, like this is what people are doing now. Like, and this is the crazy experimental stuff that people are doing.
So when you talk about Doom Patrol, you're talking about Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol.
Specifically, yeah, the Grant Morrison run on Doom Patrol.
Yeah. So what other like big like artistic influences do you have from comics? Other books?
Well, Mike Mignola, obviously very big one. The thing that really kind of changed my art in art school, I was coming out of high school and into art school, I was very unsure about what I was doing with the art. I was just really just life drawing and then pseudo trying to get work for hire superhero stuff, and it wasn't until I found the Biologic Show by Al Columbia that my art completely then changed. Reading Biologic Show really made me take myself and comics more seriously, you know, and still have fun with them though, but it made me kind of say like, oh wow, I can actually express what I'm really thinking.
With the influence of like the manga stuff and Mobius, when we were looking for an artist for Umbrella Academy, we talked a lot about getting a European feel, like doing a superhero book with a distinctly European feel. And we looked at a lot of different guys, but Ba and his brother Fabio have this great indie feel to their stuff that to me is really European.
I thought definitely with a guy like Gabriel, if you had him doing this book and it was a darker kind of superhero book, but not a superhero book at the same time, having that art in there would even distance it more. And it's kind of like, you know, I think some people that read it are like, this is almost a straight up superhero story, and it's like,
I'm surprised by that. Like, I'm surprised that like some of the mail we've gotten so far really just sees it as a regular superhero book. But then a lot of people yesterday were saying that it was weirder than they expected.
that's been kind of comforting to have people come to the book and be like, oh, this is way more challenging than I thought it'd be.
So you were at SVA the same time as our cover guy, James
Jean, yes. From the minute one seeing James' stuff, like, I was blown away.
Yeah.
Like, he was instantly my favorite new artist, and then he became my favorite cover artist. And he'd done this editorial piece for Spin. The band had won some readers' polls, and he did a drawing of me as a half-elven ranger.
Why did they do that? Because I know you used to play D&D, but why did they?
The interview was centered around D&D for some reason, with a lot of D&D questions.
Nice.
And they're like, well, what'd you used to play? I guess they were trying to see if I was legit. And I was like, well, yeah, this is what I used to play. So they centered the piece around that. So not only did, I get a self-portrait or whatever by James Jean, it was as a half-elven ranger. So I emailed him and I said, I was really blown away by this. I'm going to be in California making a record. Do you want to meet up for coffee? And then I said, I'm working on a comic. This is before I even got in touch with you.
Right.
And we met up and I talked to James and I said, would you like to do the covers for this? And that was before I even asked him to do the cover to Black Parade.